Hello and welcome to the Brian Cochran Show on BAC TV. And today's subject and episode, the state of Black America. Welcome to the show. Hello, hello, hello. God bless you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to be back again. This is um, a new thing for me, different night, but we'll figure out what night I can do it on. I'm kind of bouncing around because of some things that happen. It won't be on Wednesdays because I have meetings on Wednesdays, but unless I do it later. But anyway, tonight we're going to be talking about the state of Black America or African American community and the things that we're facing. We're in Black History Month, and I figured, I don't talk about this so much because I, as a Christian, it's no longer I but Christ in me. But at the same time, I am an African American or Black man, and there are some challenges in our community. And I don't want to not talk about our things that face our community. So I'm going to pose a couple questions first. Also, I'm going to put I'm going to, once I get done with this first part, I'm going to invite you to come in. So if you want to come in and be a part of the conversation, you're welcome to. You need to have a camera and a microphone. You're welcome to use your smartphone. I'll send the link. Just come into the program, and then I'll let you into the show itself. But just come on in into the green room, and then once I see you there, let's have some fun. Let's talk about what's going on in our community. It's yeah. Let me start it off, and then I'll come back to start with our first question for tonight. Then we're going to kind of talk about it. And then if any of these questions that I'm going to kind of pose uh, prick your mind, you want to think about it, you want to talk about it, good, bad, or different, let's talk. All right. What are some of the key indicators of progress or challenges that we face today in the African American community or Black community? What are some of the key indicators of either progress or going backwards, or challenges that we face in the Black community? That's one of the questions we're going to be delving with tonight. Another one is, how has Black Lives Matter movement impacted the state of Black America? And that's a hot button subject because of some things that are going on. We're going to talk about that tonight as well. We're going to talk about, has it brought about any meaningful changes, meaning Black Lives Matter has brought about any meaningful changes in our community? And then our last question, but we're going to talk about some other stuff. What are some of the main factors that is contributing to the disparities in our Black community? What are some of the disparities that we face in our Black communities? And so some of the things we're going to talk about tonight are going to be dealing with those. Those are our questions for tonight. Let me go ahead and put up, how do I do it? Where'd it go? Let me find it. Let me put up the question. Let me do it this way. What happened to it? Nope, that's not it. That's not it. I got a new system I'm working with, and it kind of has a mind of its own. Oh, there we go. There we go. So this is the link. Let me do it this way too, in the chat. Let me put it in the chat so that way you can copy and paste it. I'll put it in the chat so that way anytime you can come up. But that's the link that we're going to go to. And then here is, where'd it go? There we go. So that's the link for us tonight to have a conversation if you want to come in. If you don't, you can put your question down in the chat area and I'll read the question. So that way, if you don't want to come on the air, you're welcome to. We're going to just have a nice little chat tonight. I was going to do a rant because of some things that I kind of dealt with and deal with. And I figured I would not deal with it, but then at the same time, it kind of got me. So I said, let me talk about this tonight. I think it's important because I'm a YouTube guy. I watch a lot of YouTube and I'm also a minister as a business person, and I work with business people and work with churches and work with men and trying to help them to be better. And my gifting is equipping folks for their, if they want to start a business or they want to start a church or ministry or whatever, then as a life coach, as a minister of the gospel, then I can help people to do that. And so, well, I faced some challenges that I want to talk about. And I wanted there's this guy. I'm going to start with this one tonight. There's this guy who his name is Keith Lee, and this one really hit close to my heart. And I figured I'd start with this because it's one of the challenges that we face in the Black community. Um, he, uh, he's a TikToker who goes all over the country, very popular, got millions of subscribers that watch him and support what he does, and he helps businesses, and he goes around and he does some pretty cool things. And so he went to this. He was in. I'm not even gonna say the city because it doesn't matter because it's happened in several cities. But he was in Texas, and he left. Sometimes what he'll do is if he knows somebody's struggling, he's a Christian man. He talks about his faith. He lives by faith. And so he was talking to, he went to this food truck, and this, you've probably seen it on YouTube if you watch YouTube as well. It's all over Facebook as well, all over social media. It became viral as well because of what happened. And so one of the things that happened was that he decided it was laid on his heart to leave some money, to give him a big tip. So it was like $4,000 or $5,000. And he said, give. There was some, several people working there. There was a person doing, barber that was doing, that was doing cutting hair, the food truck, and then there was a young lady that was also doing braids. And so in the process of that, people were showing up. Things are going great. And he was letting his heart to leave them some money. And he says, hey, I'm going to give it to you. And then, you figure out how you're going to get the money to those people, where the lady got greedy and kept the money. And the rest of the story doesn't matter because I just want to stop there. One of the challenges that we face in the Black community is our bad business practices. And one of the things I talk about a lot is that if we have a poverty mentality, no matter how much we get, sometimes we tend to go in a different direction and not do the right thing. And so in this instance, of what happened, this lady got, she hoarded the money because she is such need that her bad business practices, because of her either not have, she says she has tons of experience, but she lacked the experience in marketing and promotion. That money that she was getting, that money that came through, she figured that was going to save her. In the process of that saving her, she did some bad things, and it went all over social media, blasting her for bad business practices. And she ended up, from what they were saying, that she was going to close, that she closed down or whatever, and so forth. And I think that's a challenge of one of the challenges that we face is that we don't take the time. We'll have a desire to start a business, but we won't go back and learn how to do business. And so we lack the business practices and business, business acumen to really be able to build a strong business and be able to go forward because of our lack of understanding how business works and how to manage our money. It's just like there's an old saying that you can give a lottery winner who has never had money, $500 million, and they'll be broke in less than a year because, if we don't know how to manage our money and manage our resources, then guess what happens? And that's part of the challenge for us, that we lack the financial literacy to understand how money works and how to work money. So one of our challenges in the state of Black America is that we're not going into business, or we're not staying in the business like we should, and so forth. And one of the things I wanted to add in this section of business is that we expect, one of the things that Keith Lee, I'll use him as an example because again, right now he's hot and all over YouTube. And one of the things that that he's found, is a lack of customer service. And part of the challenge is, let me say this up front, part of the challenge of customer service is a lot of times we don't support Black businesses. We don't tip well as Black folks. We think that because we have a poverty mentality, some of us, or a lot of us, most of us, and because we have a sense of entitlement, that the challenge is that when we go to patronize someone, we forget that those people are working minimum wage. Yes, they got a guaranteed salary or hourly, but it's not enough. Like I live in California, and because I live in California, everything's high. Unless you live out in Banning or up in the high desert somewhere where it's affordable, or up in Palmdale or farther out, whatever, that anywhere out here, rents are 2,000, start with a one bedroom, 2 bedroom is $15 to $2,000 a month. And being on minimum wage will not get it. It's not enough money. And so one of the things we have to do is invest in our, and I'm going to go ahead as I talk about it, also give solutions that one of the things that I saw happen with Keith Lee is that when he would give a bad review, they would blast him. And it's like, well, how can you talk bad about a black business? You were supposed to support black, bad business. But I think he is supporting bad business, black businesses by saying, look, if you change these things, he doesn't never tell them to not go support them. What I tend to do, and I'll go forward for me. If I had a bad service and instead of me getting on social media and blasting the business, I'll go to the business owner or the manager, depending on who's there, and let them know what happened. So that way they have an opportunity to fix it. They can't fix what they don't know. Like I've had meals where I've gone in and we as African Americans, we like to use a lot of salt, we like to use a lot of seasoning. And a lot of times we forget about when we don't have, one of the things that we tend not to do as well as have recipes. Your 4-star, 5-star restaurants have recipes. All your most successful businesses, from Chili's to McDonald's, all have a recipe. We don't. We go by feeling, and it's good and bad. That's where soul food comes from. Is from the heart. But unfortunately, one of the sad things and one of the bad things that happen is that we tend to not have a recipe, and so if you don't do it yourself, or you don't have measurements that you do it by taste or by touch or whatever. If you put too much salt, it salts everything. So I've had meals where we've eaten at a restaurant. I'm not gonna say the name of the restaurant because it doesn't matter, because I talked to the owner and the management. There've been several times that I've gone into restaurants where it was too salty. And I love salt like everybody else, but at the same time, I've cut back on salt because I have high blood pressure and I don't want to die from high blood, from that. And salt, they say salt is one of those things that causes high, hypertension, high blood pressure, and I don't want that anymore. So I'm gonna do better. And so I'm more sensitive to salt, but at the same time, I need salt. We still need salt to taste, and our bodies make part of our body makeup is salt. So anyway, I'll go to the manager, go to the owner, say, look, by the way, everything else is great, but the cabbage was salty, or the greens were salty, or the chicken, whatever it was. I would say, by the way, these things are too salty. And they would say, oh, thank you very much for letting me know. I said, look, I don't want a discount. I don't want to take it off the bill because I ate everything that I could. So I ate the food. Thank God that they wanted to, be a blessing to me and to my wife and I, and we, say, okay, we'll hook you up. But no, so I don't need to be hooked up. I want you to stay in business. And that's how we support the business, by saying, okay, I didn't have the greatest experience. Give them an opportunity to fail forward, so that way they have an opportunity to do so. Let's go to service. One of the challenges in our community is because we don't tip, and I said it earlier, and in the state of black businesses is that we can't hire the best because we don't tip. So if we tipped, then we can get good customers. Or if you tip the server, help the server, say, look, if they're not doing certain things, don't just blast them. Let them know that they've done something wrong. They're human. They might have a bad hair day, or they may have not gotten great training, or whatever the case may be. But let them know where they've fallen short, so that way they can do something better. So that's my little take tonight on small businesses, because it's one of those challenges that we face. That small businesses are the backbone of a civilization, and what's going to pull us out is small business. We can't wait for big government to do it. We can't wait for what I'm going to talk about in a little bit to give us a handout. We need to just do business. And if we do business great. And as we get better doing business and support each other, then we can rebuild our communities, like Black Wall Street was. Black Wall Street was phenomenal. They all had businesses. Most of them had businesses. They supported each other. They helped each other. They had, the community stuff that they did together, and they worked together, and they became very wealthy. We can do the same. If you look at other communities, they have, little Korea and little Tokyo, and they'll have the Jewish section, and they even have, little like here in LA, they got little Ethiopia. They got, so they have all these other places, and the only place we have that a lot of us somewhat congregate is the Leimert Park in South Los Angeles. And the challenge with that is small. So, I mean, yes, it's, if you look at Crenshaw and the Crenshaw Strip, yes, there's a lot of us on the Crenshaw Strip, but it's a long strip of businesses that go up and down through South, down into Compton and so forth. So one of the things that we can do is start supporting one another, working on buying our own retail centers and that kind of stuff, and then we put our own businesses in. And as we do it, we help them with better business practices, help them to be more successful, so that way, excuse me, so that way, let me slow down, they can win. Mm, that's some great herbal tea. All right. One of the challenges in the state of Black America is that we still practice. No, let me go to the other one. I'll come back to that one. Our educational system. I want to talk about that for a couple of minutes because that's one of the challenges that we face today as well. Let me start with our grade school, in preschools and stuff. Unfortunately, today, because a lot of our the breakup of the family, and I'll get to that in more detail in a little bit, but because of the breakup of the family, it's a single family home. So parents parents either parent going to the schools to help and talk if there's a problem and so forth doesn't happen. And because of single parent homes, there's a lot of latchkey kids, or they'll go to the Boys and Girls Club or somewhere like that where late drop off, whatever, so they can be somewhere safe until the parent comes home. But by the time the parent comes home, they're too tired to do homework. They're too tired to get involved in other things to help the kids with what they're doing. They can't even get involved with their sports and so forth. But back to the education portion, that do you know that most of our young men, little young boys, when they graduate, they don't graduate with a fourth grade, fifth grade level of reading. Most of them are not biblically, most of them are illiterate. And so, because of their illiteracy, how are they ever going to be successful in the world later on when they can't read or write? And they pass in, and the challenge is, and the problem is that because of the public school system, they're just passing them through. And because they're passing them through, we're not preparing them for success. We're preparing them for failure. They can't get into college because they can't pass the SAT test. So since they can't pass the SAT test, then they can't get into even junior college. So they may go to vocational school, but because they don't have they're not talked about and they're not trained as children to say, okay, you're not going to go to college or get a trade of some kind, and what trades they can do, and get them into a place where they can get the help they need, so that way they can choose and have something while they're growing up. Back in the day, we knew who, our police chief would come, or policemen would come into our schools. So a lot of our kids want to be policemen or firemen. Some of us wanted to be, other things. But today, because of the entertainment industry and the prince of the air that controls the entertainment industry, all the kids want to be rappers or basketball players. And so the challenge of that is there's only a small percentage of those going to make either one. And I remember back in the day when I was a kid, I wanted to be a astronaut, and the challenge was that I was horrible in math, but I was better in baseball. So instead of me getting tutoring, I got a little bit of tutoring, but I didn't care because I said I was going to be a professional baseball player. So I passed with a C minus in math, just enough to get by. Yes, I was going to sign professional baseball, whatever, whatever, whatever. But the thing about it is, just imagine I had something to fall back on, which I ended up going into entertainment, and became a business person. So I was always a business person. I was always in entertainment. So for me, it was a little bit easy because I already had purpose and understood what I was doing, because baseball, football, basketball is all entertainment, right? So part of our challenges today in our educational system, when our kids are graduating, since they can't get an SAT, they're not going to college. Young ladies, they're a little bit more different. They're a little bit more disciplined, and they're getting a better education. So you're finding more women in the African American community are getting higher education than our young men are being left behind. So what happens is, because they lack education, they lack social skills, they lack the things that they need to be successful in life, they get into trouble. And because they get into trouble, they get into crime, because by any means necessary, it's got to still bring home the bacon. They've not been taught social skills and all the things that they really need because of the breakup of the family at home. That what they end up happening is that they fall by the wayside and become uh, part of the problem versus part of the solution. So we need to do better. We need to do more homeschooling. And it's going to go into our next part that I want to talk about, which is fatherless children and the relationships and marriage. I'm going to tie it all together. Today, we have more divorces than ever before. We have more single mothers that are having children, and a lot of them are having children by Pookie and Ray Rays, because most of our kids, because they're being raised by a single parent in their latchkey, they're not going up and they need a father in the home. Because they don't have a father in the home, the father is the one that teaches discipline. He's the one that teaches order and structure. The mothers are the nurturers. So if one is unbalanced, then the children are going to be unbalanced. And so what happens is they get out because we're bad cops as the fathers, and the mothers are good cops, and so you nurse them and nurture them and love on them, and then we correct them and give them the rule of law because we're supposed to be the head of the household. But if there's no fathers in the house, which is a lot, it's more over 50-60% of that going on right now, that are single mothers raising single children, which are also raising single boys, and these single boys are coming up to become emasculated, and because of the traumas that the mothers face because they got with a Pookie or Ray Ray, or they went through an early divorce because they chose wrong, and because of single parent homes as a whole, part of the father's job is to show the mother, the daughter, and the son who they're supposed to choose, who's the right choice. You're supposed to have the type of relationship that you bring your kids home. So bring your student home, say, hey, yes, I approve of them, or no, I don't approve of them, and either one you do, then you would, then they would say, okay, I don't approve of them. Then if you love and cherish your father in the relationship that you should have with your father, he'll help you choose your mate. But since he's not in the home, you're not going to choose your mate. So, and because of the dysfunction of the mother, because of whatever reason that she had a child outside of wedlock or in wedlock, and they're now divorced because of the divorce rate, then there's nobody to help. For one, because of the lack of mental health and mental structure, which we talked about last week, that part of the challenge is that the mothers have trauma, they have isms and schisms and junk in their trunk. That when they go into other relationships or the lack of relationships, they take it out on their sons, or they take it out on their daughters by not giving them the tools and resources they need to be successful. So if we don't start to restore marriage and make marriage sexy and makes marriage viable, one of the challenges we face, not just in the Black community, this faces marriages as a whole. That the way the laws work is in favor of the women. So men are not getting married now because of the challenges of that. Black men especially, because they don't know what it looks like. Because if they're raised by their mother or raised by their grandmother, then the chances are they don't see what marriage looks like. And because they don't see what marriage looks like, then they fall short because they don't know what it is, one, to be a man, because they're not taught how to be a man. It's a father teaches a boy how to be a man, first and foremost. It's a mother teaches a young lady how to be a mother, but the father's job is to help them to see who they're supposed to marry. That's their job. And that's how you work together, building a great relationship and a great family to have a great community, because everybody, if you look back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, even if dysfunction, the family was restored and the family were together. So we had more young men going to college or they're going into the military. We had, less things going on. It wasn't until the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, when free love, and then early 80s when welfare came in, that it changed everything. It was more easier and more cost effective for a woman to not have a child and have a father or a husband in the home or a man in the home, because of what the enemy wanted to do. And it's been working. So ever since then, it's been working. Hold on a second. So if we want to change our African American community or Black community, then one, we need to teach our young people about marriage. Go back to what abstinence is, because right now, because of entertainment, because of the prince of the air, that he controls the media. So is he going to make marriage sexy, or is he going to make marriage bad? Of course, he's going to make marriage bad. He's going to have same-sex marriages. The music industry is promoting sex, drugs, and rock and roll, being single, going out and getting living your best life and all that kind of stuff. And so it's not promoting family values. So since it's not promoting family values, and our kids are allowed to, now we have kids that are listening to smartphone technology. They have smartphones and tablets, and that's what's raising them. They're able to watch anything they want to watch because parents aren't putting filters or watching over the kids. Because again, most of our families are single parent homes. And so because of that, nobody's watching the kids, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Twitter, the TikTok. Well, not Twitter, because most of the kids are not on Twitter, but or X as they call it now, but they're on TikTok, and TikTok is and it's owned by a Chinese company, and China, they hate us. They don't like us, but yet, we're supporting that and we're doing that. And so they allow, like in their own country, they don't allow the same type of content here as they do there. There, it's very middle of the road, very family friendly, very about their government and so forth. Here, it's anything goes. You can say almost anything you want. And because of that, kids are learning these things earlier. They're getting pregnant earlier. They don't want to be in full good relationships because of what's going on in the home. What's going on in the home. So we need to work on building better relationships, teaching our women to choose better, because I watch YouTube a lot, one of the things that I see a awful lot is that there's this thing called the one percenters. From Disneyland to Prince Charming, all those things. Women are looking for their Prince Charming, and because they're looking for Prince Charming, they're overlooking the average guy who's going to be good to them, and they want the 666, the guy with six figures, 6 inches, and 6 foot tall, and because of those 3 6s, that's what they're looking for. They won't compromise on that, and so since they won't compromise because they don't know any better, and because of what the media is doing, they're holding on to those things of this world, and then, and all wanting the same one guy. And so what happens is, instead of getting a good guy who's going to be home every night, that's going to be faithful. Now, is every man perfect on either side? Absolutely not. But if there was a man in your life, a father in your life to help you pick, then he'll see. Because again, I was a Pookie and Ray Ray. I was in the entertainment business, so I've done some pretty crazy things in my life. So I know game knows game, and so I want the best for my child. So I want my child to introduce. Back in the old days, before you would get married, you would bring them to you bring this the suitor. He would come to your house and ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. Well, we don't do that anymore. We should, but we don't do that anymore. And partly because men are not in the homes, and the father's not in the homes, and because women are raising, and because the Papa was a Rolling Stone, wherever he laid his head was home. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. And because of that, unfortunately, our children are growing up without role models as fathers. My father was my hero because he was in my life up until just this past year. But he was in my life. So he was he was always supportive, he was always around. Was he perfect? No. Did he have some challenges? Absolutely. But nobody's perfect. But he was there, and he loved my mother. And was he perfect? No. Did he do some things? Yes. But ultimately, because he stayed home and he was in the home, I saw how they worked together, how they paid their bills, how they bought property, how they did things. So I saw how to do it. So in my marriage now, I've been married 19, almost 20, it'll be 20 years in a couple months. And my wife and I, we've divided things. We do things a certain way. And because first and foremost, God is before us. He's more than the world against us. So because of that, we have a great relationship because God is in the middle of our relationship. So we need to get back into, especially the church, we need to get back into teaching about marriage, teaching about relationships, so that way we can help change our community. Next, I want to talk about social. No, let's. We're almost done. Yeah, I don't want to be here all night. We talked about money. Let's talk about social media for a couple of minutes. And I kind of talked about it already, but I want to delve into just a little bit more. That because the Bible says that the enemy, he's the prince of the air. He controls the airways. He controls the music and film industry. So yes, it's an industry, and it's an industry that's governed by Satan and his minion. Are there some good areas? Absolutely. Is there some good music? Absolutely. But what happens is, righteousness exalts a nation, sin's a reproach. So when we operate in sin, it's a reproach, and that's where we're at now. Sin is abounding because we're not creating our own that are wholesome and better and directing, and because we don't support, and the lack of support in the African American film industry, that we tend to go to the other and expect the other to be successful. And so we need to. Social media came and it changed everything. Everybody's a star. Everybody has to tell their truth, regardless of what the state is. And because of that, is also bringing our culture down as blacks, because we're putting stuff where I can't believe, I see women on, men too, but I'm, just for a second, I'm talking about women. I'll get to the men. I see women online talking about they living their best life, because of our culture today, that I don't need no man. And so we're teaching we don't need a man. Education and success is more important than a relationship. Well, I'm going to say this tonight, that God created women for their husband, for the man. And so to be a helpmeet to their husband, he did not want them to be alone because they're the weaker vessel. So I'll say that. So now that we got that out of the way. So part of the challenge in social media today that I see, that because they don't have a father, because they don't care, or they're mad at their father, and because of their trauma, and right now there's something called OnlyFans, which is a adult website that anything goes, right? And so they first started at TikTok, and they do YouTube videos, and they'll show bathing suits, and because of Instagram, you can, all the likes, and because of the dysfunction of the home and their dysfunction, they begin liking likes. And so with dating apps where women are pedalized, and not, they're put on a pedestal, they're queens now and all this other kind of stuff, their mentality has changed because of social media, as well as because of our culture. Our young men, because they see rappers getting money, they're seeing rappers getting girls, they get these guys that are on social media that are talking about, these are African American. This also happens in the other communities, but again, tonight I'm talking about the African American or Black community. And so our young men are seeing these guys that are faking it until they making it, because social media allows you to do whatever you want. There's nothing to fact check. There's nothing to stop them from saying whatever they want. There, because of, like here, there's a blue screen. I could put whatever background I want back here, and so I could look like I live in a mansion. I live, up in Beverly Hills or somewhere, that I'm flying in jets. I could set myself up like I have a studio here in Pomona, and I could set it up where we look like we're in a plane. So we can make it look, or we could go rent a Bentley for the day, or a Lamborghini for the day, and take pictures by doing it, so that way we can fake it until we make it. So social media has caused us to not be thriving, to learn more, to do more, to do better. We want the fast buck. Yes, it's okay. I mean, the internet is a wild, wild west, and there's a great opportunity to make money. But the way we're doing it in the African American community, there are some good folks. Again, I'm not saying there are no good people doing great things. Absolutely, there are. But I'm saying part of the challenges of our community and the things that's bringing us down, more than bringing us up, as I said earlier, righteousness exalts a nation, sins reproach. And so, because of the unrighteousness that is abounding, that is doing great and doing awesome in the world's perspective, then it's harder for us to help young people, because, or help women, or help men, or help our society, or help our community, because we're so busy being unchecked. There's no accountability, or very little accountability. And the ones that are doing it right, sometimes you may not like their approach, but what they say, it's so funny, because we've become so sensitive and desensitized that we don't want to offend anybody. Well, you hurt my feelings. It's all about feelings. Well, no, that's a woman thing. Men, we do have feelings, but we hold our feelings in. We're logical, and so we come from logic. Well, social media gives you where you can have your feelings. It's all about your feelings and how you feel. And so I don't feel like I don't like this one today. I could tune into this one. I can leave a bad comment because I don't like what they say. It offended me. Well, again, what happened to the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, where back in the day, we would have the dozens and talk about each other really bad. But then as soon as we got done with the dozens, we would go hug and go get ice cream. But today we're hurting each other's feelings. If you're a Trump supporter, you didn't love God, or you didn't love Black people. And if you are a Democrat, you're a liberal, and you didn't love people because you're socialist and all this other kind of stuff. And then social media has brought it all to where you can, at a click of a click of a mouse, you're able to feed whatever you want to be fed with. And it's sad because of what's going on in our community that is bringing our community down. So we need to create wholesome programming, family programming, get our kids, start creating our own TV shows, get our own social media websites that we control, because the world controls those. Yes, the internet is somewhat free, and it's a wild, wild west. So we have an opportunity to build our own social media outlets. We just have to work together to do it. So let's talk about voting for a couple of minutes. We can't change if we don't vote. I'll raise my hand first that I didn't vote for a long time, because I knew what the electoral college, for the local stuff, I would kind of halfway vote for. But for president, vice president, and that kind of stuff, I didn't vote, because I saw how the electoral college worked. But at the same time, if we worked on the local side, getting our local representatives in place, then we hold them accountable if they don't vote our way, and put those people in place. Right now, because we are so absent in local, then the national comes about, and so we get mad. So we got mad because Trump got elected. Well, if you didn't like Trump and what he was represented, then you should have got involved. And good, bad, and indifferent, God will give us a king after our hearts, right? So if we're foul, why would he give us somebody great if we're foul? So it's again, righteousness exalts a nation. So if we were walking in righteousness and voting and getting involved with local politics and state politics, not saying become a politician, but our vote does count. And so if you don't like, there's a person that their issue is oneness, right? They're all about their culture. They forgot about you're in a minority in your community, but yet you want, you expect to win with 1% of the community. That's dumb. Instead of broadening your platform and include everybody, then you narrow yourself down, and that kind of ties into our victim mentality part of the person I want to talk about tonight as well. That for some reason we have a victim mentality. Now, victim mentality is the biggest thing that's holding us from going forward. Yeah, yes, we were brought over here in slave ships. So there's the us that think they were Hebrew Israelites, the original Hebrews, because of based upon a scripture, which that's yeah, that's another conversation for another time. Excuse me. But one of the challenges of that is that we have, because we are still holding on to trying to get our 40 acres and a mule, that reparations thing. I got a friend of ours that, a couple of friends of ours, and they gave me a flyer. They're church folks and they belong in the church and so forth. And they handed me a flyer about, a committee, trying to get reparations for California. And I'm like, and we're at a restaurant in a public place, and I probably would have sat down with them, but I was with my wife. If I was by myself, I would have sat down with them and read them the riot act, only because we're in the land. The best place to be is here. If we're still in Africa, most of us would have been dead. The women would have been, raped and pillaged and so forth to a certain part. They wouldn't have you don't have what we have today. If you're living here in America, it's the land of opportunity. And because of the land of opportunity, yeah, there was, yes, there is racism. In every four corners of the earth, there's racism. Get over it. But at the same time, I wouldn't be doing this broadcast now if I still had a victim mentality, because I'd be waiting for, excuse the expression, the white man to give it to me. No, I had to save my money, buy the equipment, and then do business, learn about my craft, and then now I'm successful because I've learned to master my craft, and I also teach others to do the same. We have to get out of that victim mentality. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So if you think of yourself as broke and poor, my wife had to check me one time about that. It's talking, she was telling me, I was saying, "Oh, we're broke," and she said, "Look, don't you ever say we're broke. We're between blessings." And then she had to check me, and because she checked me, I don't say that anymore. I'm in between blessings. Why? Because as a man thinketh. So if I think I'm broke, then I'm going to do things that broke people do. When I talked about the lottery winners, I know that during the pandemic, a bunch of folks got some PPP money, and they got some stimulus money and all stimulus checks. Instead of them taking that money and saving it, they took it and blew it, right? And so that was your reparations right there, because you got thousands of dollars. For 3 years, you're able to get money that you didn't have to earn, you didn't have to work for, you didn't have to qualify for, except for being a human being here in America. And so because of that, everybody that applied got money. I invested in equipment when I got my money, because I knew that eventually when the pandemic is over, I wanted to have the equipment to be able to do what I'm doing right now. And so, so I enhanced my business and saved some money. So when we had some rainy days, I was able to me and my wife and I were able to weather the storm and come forward. But because we have a poverty mentality and we have a victim mentality, thinking that woe is me because of the racial disparity, because of this and that. Well, one of the things I've, because I'm a business developer and a consultant, that I help people to build their credit. Most of us have bad credit because, one, we don't know how to manage money. One, because we got into debt at a young age. When we got into college age and you got into college, they were giving away credit cards that because you got the credit card, oh, I can get this, and get this, but not having the discipline to pay it on time. So you got bad credit. So now you turn around and you blame the white man because you got bad credit. Well, no, it's not his fault. Me, I learned a long time ago. Am I perfect at it? No. Did I make mistakes? Absolutely. But one of the things that I learned is what my dad did, which brings back to my both my parents in the home, is that my parents took me and introduced us to the banker, and then he gave we had children. You had a, I forgot what the account is. It was a man, Gerber's account, I think it was. We had a Gerber's account as babies, and then we got a children's account, a Christmas account, and that kind of stuff. So I've always learned about banking and known about money. Have I made mistakes? Absolutely. And that's a whole nother conversation for another time of the mistakes I've made. But for the most part, I can't blame the white man from my lack of success. I got to blame me. If I don't if I don't roll my sleeves up, pull myself over my bootstraps and go for it, and just continue to wait for the white man to do it, then it'll never change. So if we don't start to encourage ourselves, learn about money, learn about what this world has to offer, and keep waiting on reparations and um, um, pleading that, or stating a case that, we're trying to get people to do it. And yeah, there's been some churches that felt. I just saw something a couple of days yesterday or day before yesterday about a church gave reparations to a part of a community. Part of it was to another church, and then part of it to another community, because of kind of what's going on is this race theory, critical race theory thing that's going around, that they're victimizing the white men that had nothing to do with this generation, had nothing to do with the past, nothing to do with the past. So how are you going to hold them accountable? Yes, they may be a little bit farther than we are, or they may be a lot farther than we are. But at the same time, if now that we know that anybody can get a loan, you just got to find the right place to get a loan. You got to get a paid. If you're in business, it's something called a paydex score, which we're going to start talking about and teaching about. That for business, it's a paydex score. For your personal, it's a FICO score. So if you get an 800 or better, or 80, so for personal, it's 800 or better. 850 is better, is A credit. So guess what? Your interest rate is low. Your interest rate is lower, and you can go to certain banks. The one turns you down. There's others that you can go to. There's ways of doing it that it won't mess up your credit. And then on the business side, it's called a paydex score, which is done through Dun and Bradstreet and Equifax or Experian business. And so those generate a business score. And so just like when you first get started in life, you started with a 0 credit score. And so, but you build it by getting credit cards that you pay on time, Staples cards and that kind of stuff to get yourself started and pay it on time. We're not disciplined because we still have a victim mentality. We're still blaming everybody for what happened 400 years ago that's still happening today, which is not true. There's certain communities, there's bad people in every community. There's bad police officers, there's bad politicians, there's bad things that are going on everywhere. Got it. But at the same time, if you think of the things above, if you put yourself in a place of getting educated about money and about finance and about business or whatever you want to get into, about investing and so forth, then you have a better opportunity to be successful. If we stop having these pity parties and I went to a couple of meetings not too long ago, and there were pity parties. They were, woe is me, woe is me, woe is me. They're not giving us our reparations. They're not giving us our 40 acres of mule. They're not giving us our just due. We You are absolutely right. But just imagine if the 4 or 5 or 6 of us, or actually the one meeting I went to, there's 20 of us in this meeting. Just imagine if we all say, okay, we know what the problem is, which is what I'm talking about today. But the solution is, why don't we start an investment fund or a real estate REIT of some kind? So a real estate REIT is where a bunch of people come together, and it's like a hedge fund manager, but for real estate. And they buy properties that you invest in. You get dividends based upon your investment. And it's not guaranteed. Nothing's guaranteed except for taxes and death, and you're going to heaven or hell, whatever the case may be. So the challenge, so just imagine if we got educated in finance. I remember I was working with an organization, and I'm almost done, working with an organization that they wanted to do what we're talking about, put together an investment group. And, and so I was getting involved with them. And because I work with a lot of churches and I've helped do church development, start a lot of these churches, a lot of them, they don't have the financial acumen to understand what investing is. So I told the leaders, I said, look, why don't we go ahead and before we do the investment part, let's start a educational program that teach people about, teach pastors first and foremost, to start helping them to understand how finances work and how money work and how investments work. So that way we can get them in a solid position to work with us, not against us. And not that we give them special treatment because they're just a person too. But if we get them on board, then it makes it easier to get to the congregation. We can go around them by doing what we're doing now. But it's easier because the church was the central spot for the community, for the Black community. So if we can get back to that where we talk about our issues, we talk about the things, we help each other grow, it becomes the educational center, the cultural center. If we get back to that where the doors are open all the time to help each other, then we can make a difference. But the leaders was like, finish our story. The leader was like, well, I only want to work with the churches that get it. I go, huh? I said, so what about the small churches that have 20 members? Don't they have a need to? And he says, yeah, but I don't want to deal with them. I only want to deal with the people that are successful. Well, that's the same thing. That's that crab mentality that I'm going to make it with my faithful few that get it, and then forget about everybody else. So and it's a it's an African American organization. So I'm like going. So they have a mentality of not being positive. That yes, they want to do some great things, but only for the people that get it. That they don't have to educate and they don't have to really work with, and they can just take off and running because they're talking with multi-site churches and mega churches and that kind of stuff that have 1,000+ people. So it makes it easier. You got one pastor that you can get to 1,000 people. That's wonderful. But to me, is one puts 1,000 a fight, two puts 10,000 a fight. If you're faithful to the few, he'll make you rule over many. And so if we don't get out of this victim mentality, if we don't get over the things that we're talking about, then nothing's going to change. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about tonight, and man, y'all been good. Praise God. I'm excited about this because I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. There's some new people that are going to be the new N word, right? Immigration is going to make us obsolete in a minute. The Democrats is on a full frontal assault to get everybody to all the Mexicans and folks coming from other countries coming in with opening the borders. So that way, one, they're going to populate us out, and two, they're going to vote us out. And so we won't have any power because we have allowed ourselves, we're not having kids like we've been before. It's become stagnant in the Black community because instead of us having 3, 4, 5 kids, because of having a family, mothers are having they may be having more kids, but again, we've already talked about the challenge of that. I don't want to go there anymore, but that's the challenge in the Mexican community. Their divorce rate is less, especially coming from other countries. They come together because they have a common bond to work together, and they work together better as a community. They'll have 18 people. I'm exaggerating a little bit. They'll have 6, 2, 3, 4 families living in one house, and what they do is they'll get a person successful, they'll get a house, and then they start all over again. They can start all over again. Then everybody ends up with their own home, and then they have their own community and things that they do together. So if we don't rebuild the family, rebuild our community, we will not have any voting power, because what's going to happen is once these folks get their green cards and they work them real in the fast track to get them to become citizens, because the Democrats got them over here free, flying them all over the country, busing them and training them all over the country. They're automatically getting all the stuff that we weren't getting, they're getting now, because they see the value of an ignorant voter. And because of loyalty, they're going to end up voting whatever the Democrats want. They're going to vote blindly because, man, they're the ones, this is the party that got me over here. I'm going to be loyal to them, and we're not loyal. So in closing, if we don't learn to work together as a people, we're going to be in trouble. And it's one of those things where I'm tired of it. That's why I talked about the state of the African Americans today, because it's one of those, what I see online, because I'm a minister and see in the church and see because I'm involved in my community, I see in my community, I want to make a change. So a couple of things that I'm working on that if you want to get involved, DM me. I'm going to put my email address up so you can reach out and touch if you're interested. Let me do that real quick. I should have done this before. Gmail. That's my best one. That's my phone. Sorry. 1 second. There it is. Oh, what happened? Oh, that's what happened. There we go. Got it. There we go. That's my email address, or you can DM me. Even after this broadcast is over, reach out and touch. Let me also put my telephone number on there. Hold on 1 second too. Let me put my telephone number on there. So you can either call me as well, because this is important. If we want to change the community, we got to be about our Father's business. And the only way that's going to happen is if we come together. The faithful few that want to do it, roll up their sleeves. I talked about it last week. I'll put my contact information. There's my contact information. That's my cell phone, goes directly to my cell, and that's my email address that's directly to my phone. So anyway, with a couple things that we're working on. One, we have an organization that we've already partnered with that we're going to be bringing mental health to our community, because one of the things, I live in Pomona, and something happened to me, which I'll be talking about. My wife and I'll be talking about real soon. That happened to us, that we need some mental health, and so we got some help and getting help, and the gentleman that's helping me was part of Kaiser, but he also has a nonprofit. And so we're talking about life coaching, as far as us doing mental health and life skills all tied into one, with anger management, relationship coaching. We're going to be doing some job preparation as well as entrepreneurship, teaching people how to start their own business and so forth. And those are a couple of things that we're getting started with right away. We also have a men's program that we're getting started, a rite of passage program we're getting ready to get started. So if you are a person that wants to roll up your sleeves and help our community, and you see the state of our African American community, then I'm imploring you and pleading with you to get involved. So that way we can. Again, I said it earlier. One could put 1,000 fight, two could put 10,000 fight. We're going to start young with our children, and we're going to have our own version of the Boys and Girls Club. We're going to have our own version of Awanas or Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts. We're going to be doing a men's ministry and women's ministry. We're not starting a church. We're starting a movement. And because we need, if we're going to teaching financial literacy, having financial literacy courses, teaching people about money, how financing works, how business financing works, so that way we could change our community based upon us working together for the good of our community, to help our community. So that's it for tonight. That's my contact information there. I hope something's been said or something's been done to empower you, to enlighten you, and to challenge you to get busy